Our dear viewers, welcome back to our second episode on NSTV about understanding what human trafficking is all about. In the first episode, we talked about the different acts or activities performed by a perpetrator while in the process of trafficking a victim. Now, in this particular episode, we'll center ourselves around the means. Remember, I told you human trafficking involves three ingredients: the actions, the means, and the purpose. So this time, in this episode, we shall talk about and understand the different means that a trafficker uses to achieve their respective actions that they perform on a victim of trafficking persons. Now, to traffic a victim, the trafficker must deploy the following means. Like, we will have to relate these means to the different actions that the trafficker performs. To be able to recruit someone, to transport them, to hire them, or to harbor them, to maintain them in a place, or even transfer them to be received or even confined for purposes of exploitation, the trafficker must use the following means: one of these, or all of them if possible, or some of them. So it's a mix. One, the trafficker uses deception. This is exactly what it is. They use lies. They will lie to the victim about the opportunities. They will lie to the victim about anything that looks like a green pasture. And they will lie to the victim about anything that gets them away and enables them to achieve the respective acts that I've mentioned. Secondly is fraud. Yes, the trafficker uses fraud. They can use fraud in documents, they can use fraud in impersonation, they can use fraud in so many other avenues, as long as they achieve the different acts that they intend to be able to achieve the consent of a victim. Thirdly, the trafficker also uses threats. Yes, it's true. They use threats to threaten the victim to be able to accept, to be recruited, to be transported, to be confined, or whatever it is that they need at the moment. They will threaten the victim, maybe threats that are due to life, maybe the threats are directed towards the victim's family or friends or relatives, so that they achieve the consent of the victim. Coercion is the other means that traffickers use with a lot of force. This can be probably, there's a thin line between that coercion and use of force. And yes, indeed, this is also so much used by traffickers. They force the victims into engaging in activities, illegal activities, in a way that abuses the rights of the victim and also renders them into a space of exploitation. This coercion and force also leads to victims that fall in categories like uh, child marriages or forced marriages, and even forced labor, because under no circumstances will you have children being married off at an early age and it's in their own will. So this is always done by force. The other form of means is abduction. Yes, indeed. Abduction happens very often, and victims are taken in by all means, forced into activities of exploitation, illegal activities, like victims that end up in terrorism activities, for instance. Many, we hear the stories, are abducted from the villages, from the streets, and taken and oriented into these activities. And yes, even abduction happens where the purpose is forced marriage. We've seen and heard stories of young women that are forced into marriages and they're abducted, taken into this marriage situation by force. The other is uh, by giving benefits or receiving benefits. The trafficker uses these means to achieve consent of the victim by promising benefits, maybe even giving benefits in real time, like money, or for some parents, they receive dowries. We talked of forced marriages and early childhood marriages. These kinds of benefits also lead our victims into being trafficked and also being exploited, because in this case, the benefits are something you may refer to as the payment, either to the person that is being given away or to the very victim, but under a very deceptive conduct. The other is detaining. Yes, detention. Detention of a victim is also another means of forcing them into this vulnerability position to be trafficked. Detentions happen in very many spaces, and the victims, especially where the victims cannot access any means of communication to let their people know where they are and what kind of help they may need or what kind of risk they are faced with in any given situation. So, where you exist, where you stay, you may find you're exposed to this kind of information where people are detained. Many of these, or you'll find that so many of them are actually victims of trafficking who may be already exploited or are awaiting exploitation. Kindly let the authorities know, let the police know, and rescue or save another person. And lastly, Uh, this other mean is very crucial. The abuse of office and abuse of vulnerability of a victim of trafficking in persons. This, I say, is very critical because under all circumstances, the victims are in a vulnerable position. Therefore, where you have authorities that take it upon themselves to abuse this space, this is where we largely have persons falling victims to trafficking in persons. Those that are in spaces, leaders, managers, LC1s, members of parliament, public officers, security personnel, all in this space that is possible to abuse an office. Be aware that if you're found in such a situation, that you abuse your own office to aid or to even directly engage in trafficking another, your penalty is life imprisonment. And this is for the case of Uganda. This is the worst punishment that a public officer desires to have at any given time. Therefore, for any victim, be aware of your situation, be aware of where you feel a level of vulnerability, and this is where you need to be so keen to avoid being exploited, to avoid a situation where you're trafficked for any purpose that there may be. So, once you find yourself in such a situation that you're doing activities, you're engaged in things that you think render you victim, as we've explained, don't hesitate to reach the Ministry of Internal Affairs. Don't hesitate to reach us in the following contacts that I'm going to also read out to you. For those that can access the X handle, you can access X at mia.ug there, and also X at DCICUg. Now, in this particular case, there is no full stop between DCIC and UG. There is no dot. It's just X at DCICUg or X at mia.ug. And this information can reach our call center and you can be supported, you can be helped, you can help in the rescue of another person. But also, The following contacts can be utilized for purposes of asking for help or for any kind of information that may lead to rescue of another person in a situation of vulnerability to being trafficked. That is 0417 102600. I repeat, 0417 102600 or 0417 346 or 0417 346 Fighting human trafficking starts with me, starts with you. Thank you.